Welcome to the Strategic Thinkers Podcast. This is an episode that is going to be great for a lot of people that are trying to figure out their way through sales. There are a lot of people that I have conversations with that are trying to sell. And I can tell that they're using scripts from the 80s and 90s. I can tell that they're kind of struggling their way through it. And I think this would be a great opportunity for people to be able to pick up a skill that you can't just get everywhere. It's something where you have to kind of get the reps in. You have to have people that can walk you through it. And having someone that can actually give you some of the tidbits and things as starting points is going to be something that can really help people out. With that, I'm going to give the promise of by the end of this episode, you'll have more confidence and competence in turning sales conversations from awkward pitches into natural relationship building discussions that close more deals while making prospects actually thank you for the call. Now, the impressive part of that is actually getting people to be able to thank you for the call. And I think that's something where Travis does a great job with that. He's got some Southern charm. He's got something where, he kind of puts people at ease. And we may not all have that as a blessing, but you can get some of the pieces from it and really be able to start figuring out how to be able to make your version of that. So with that, Travis, I want to say thank you and welcome and excited to have you here, man.
And thank you so much, Sean. Honestly, man, you know how I feel already about you, but I got to put it out there right now and so everybody can hear it. Thanks for spending time with me because I love to spend time with you. I know we just met, but the conversations we've had so far have just the connection's been there, man. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm happy to be here and hopefully I can give you guys some great tips today.
perfect. I guarantee that you will because some of the things that just come to you naturally are things that I think people are struggling with. Let's just talk about some of the things that you're working on. I know that you've got real estate that you're working on, that you do coaching, conversation. You're seeing a lot of things, not just in real estate because these are some interesting times in real estate, but you're also doing the sales coaching. So you get to see the best and the worst. What are some of the things that you're seeing? And just tell us a bit about what you've been working on.
So just to give a little bit about my background, born and raised Charleston, West Virginia, country boy, always been here, but I've traveled around a little bit. But anyway, so I got into real estate about 10 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that now. Time goes by really, really fast. Definitely when you're in and out of houses. So I'm seeing a lot of different things right now. I'm seeing the economy change. I'm seeing the way people make decisions are different than they were, even a year ago, 6 months ago. People are only making purchases right now if if it's a necessity and they really trust the person they're doing business with, whether it's an individual or company. I'm seeing that on every scale of it. Real estate, coaching, it seems like that's just what's happening.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point, and I think that's what's really speaking to the people that are really good at sales because they're able to build up that level of trust, and then the people that are figuring it out. And that's the difference between a longer sales cycle and a no, or someone that's able to read the room, read the conversation, and be able to actually get accomplished what they want to be able to get accomplished. So, with that, what are some of the patterns that you're seeing between people that struggle with sales versus the people that make it look effortless?
Oh, good question. I love this is gonna be so much fun. Okay.
Mm.
So, a lot of the difference that I'm seeing is, the confidence, knowing like you said reading the room, being intuitive, listening. We could have a conversation, somebody else could have the same conversation, and, you could get something out of it that the other person just sleeps on. And it's just paying attention to that person, and I feel like a lot of salespeople right now, money is always important to everybody. Money's getting tight, people are watching how they're spending, and that means that as a business person, sometimes we can get sales breath, commission breath is what they call it. So, I think that that's really big.
So one of the things that I know that we talked about was I had mentioned, I said, you know what, I feel like things are slowing down for some people. And you had a great response to that. What you said was, you know what, it's slowing down for the people that struggle with being able to
Mm,
get their point across and some of the things that they want to be able to cover versus those that can kind of, again, read the room and read the conversation and say, okay, well, I know what I want to be able to accomplish. I know that I'm talking to someone that's in a position to actually do the things that I want them to be able to do. So how do I get them from I don't know if this is something that I can do to something where it's like, okay, well, now let's figure out how to be able to take the next steps and actually be able to close the deal. So
yeah,
when we're
yeah.
looking at the external circumstances, some things become excuses like, well, things are slow. Well, there's this. Well, there's that. As someone
People
that's a
aren't
sales
spending money
coach,
right now.
Yes, exactly. So someone that's a sales coach, how are you kind of guiding people through that? But yes, there's people have slowed down. Yes, it's more about trust, but it's understanding what's missing and what you need to add into the conversation to be able to get on that list of people that are actually closing. So what is some of the advice that you're giving people to be able to kind of guide them through it as a coach?
Sure, yeah, that's awesome. So, I'm talking to a lot of people, definitely where we met through Alignable.
Hmm.
That's where I'm talking to a lot of business people right now, and a lot of these people, not everyone, but some people get on and it's straight up presentation as soon as we get on a call. They're telling me features, benefits, everything they can offer me. Do I want to sign up?
Hmm.
And by
Okay.
that time, I'm just like, okay, I'm not connected with you at all on any part of this, right? So they're doing a lot of intellectual selling, and I think this is the biggest problem right now, okay? I think this is the biggest. It's a lot of intellectual selling, meaning presentations, bonuses, features,
Hmm.
I don't think people wanna hear that, and I think when you say that, I think as a consumer, we kinda block it off, and we ignore it, because we've heard it so much. So what are we gonna say to be different? I had a call with a guy yesterday, I went and looked at his house. Right before I got there, my competitor was there. Okay, so we
Hmm.
both looked at it within an hour time frame. He met both of us. They was like, "Oh, well, we'll talk. We'll be in touch with you tomorrow." So I was like, "Well, I want to hear what they had to say. So I'll call you back tomorrow too, right?" So
Hmm.
I called the guy tomorrow evening. I'm talking to this man, and me and him having a really good conversation. But then we get to talking the features and benefits part, right? And soon as I get into the features and benefits part, he's like, "I've heard that before. I heard that. That's not the first time I heard that today,
Right.
right?" So everything else that I said to him was emotional selling. It was getting to know this person, asking the right questions, letting him know I'm not just a salesman. The other guy was just a salesman. So when I started saying all the stuff the other guy said, he heard it all before. But
Hmm.
that's the first time he said that to me. When I was having all these other conversations with him, this man never brought up once, "Oh, I've heard that before." Because I was different, I was genuine, and I was having real conversations with him, and I think that's where we're lacking. I think a lot of people just don't know how to have a genuine conversation because we're so worried about making money, getting the sale.
Hmm.
We're really good at if you're a good salesman, you're good at helping people. Whatever product or service you have, you're really, really good at it, right? But when we get on the phone or in front of a prospect, sometimes that's out the window, like we talked about before, Sean. Sometimes we lose that because we're thinking about money, we're thinking about closing the sale, but just slow it down, like you're a country boy, slow it down
Hmm.
for a second, right? And get to know that person. Ask them some questions. I think that's the best way to do it and let them know that even if we aren't going to do business, Sean, it's completely okay. Let's just have a conversation. Let's talk. Let's see where this goes. Is that all right with you? You know,
Love
that
that.
type of world that you put them in is a whole different world than the intellectual salesman who's knocking on the door and saying, "Here's my product, buy it from
Hmm.
me. You wanna know how" listen to the stories I have of the people who it's helped. I've heard all of that.
Right.
Everybody's heard it all. It's in the sales book from back decades ago.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what you've described is the difference between what's in it for them and what's in it for the actual person that they're trying to sell to. And I believe that's one of the biggest difference makers. We're both on these calls. We do the networking sessions. We get to hear pitches multiple times within one session. So it's something where I know there are some people that they'll give a pitch and I know it's a pitch and I'm trying to have a conversation. So it's if I say something and it throws it off remotely, I can see where they stumble because they're like, I'm so used to giving the pitch this way that they can't call that audible. They can't switch it up and be able to actually have a conversation. I think that's the difference in a lot of situations between someone that's a seasoned salesperson or someone that's seasoned at selling, as opposed to someone that's just kind of working their way through it. I know, and we had a conversation about it. I know from my sales days, because I don't really consider myself a salesperson anymore. When I worked at a publication, a local publication, New York Press, it was something where we had $100 that we had to get through a day, and then we were also they would evaluate how long we stayed on the calls. And one of the things that we talked about when we were when I was telling you about it, we were talking about getting those reps in. And the reps are what allow you to start to be able to read the situation. And the more reps you get, the more you start to catch on to it faster and faster and faster. So when you first call someone, one of the first things I'm listening for is, does it sound like it's a good time? If it's not a good time, then I need to pivot into going, I'm not trying to accomplish something on this call. I'm trying to set up the second or the third call. So I think that's one of those things where like you have to be able to kind of read the room. So when we say read the room, that's what I'm talking about. If you call someone or you get on a call or whenever you have that interaction with them, if they seem really busy, they seem distracted, that's not the time to try to change their mind into doing what you want them to do. That means your agenda isn't necessarily aligned with their agenda. The one of the best things that you can do in those situations is to start setting it up for the next call. Okay, well now it doesn't seem like it's a good time. So when would be a good time? Like, you seem a little off. Like, at that point, the way I wanna lower their guard is I wanna have a conversation about what's actually distracting them. Because maybe it's something that they can get off their chest and they can realize, "Well, I thought I was giving you my attention, but I wasn't really giving you my attention," and by acknowledging it and not taking offense to it, it helps bring someone around to the conversation where they're willing to be able to have more of a conversation with you. So, being able to say like, I know you were on a call and you said there was a guy that took a phone call. Like, there's phone etiquette, there's certain things that you wanna be able to read into, and if someone seems distracted, it can say, "Seems like this might not be a good time to be have a call. Like, do you have a lot going on right now?" And then that person might go, "Yeah, well, I was trying to do this and this deal didn't go through, or I'm trying to put out fires, or I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that." And in those situations, that context is something that you can use for that next call and the next call after that, because you bring something up and go, well, how did that go? How'd that work out? And it takes it from you selling to you actually taking a genuine interest in what they're doing. And that is what starts to put you in a position where you can have a genuine conversation. So I love that you covered it's not just reading the room, it's reading the actual situation and having more of a conversation than a sales pitch. So, in total agreement with it, how would you say most people try to close on one call instead of setting it up for two or three? Like I told you how I would look at it, but what are you saying when you have these conversations with people and you realize they feel like they can only do it on that one call? They're not even thinking about potentially getting a second or a third.
So you're saying, what would I say to the people who are just focused on doing the one call or close?
Yeah, I mean, there are some people that will say, you know what, they'll get the person on the phone and they feel like they have to close that person on that call. And I'm saying in some cases that's a mistake. And as
Yeah.
someone that's a sales coach, I imagine that you're seeing people where they feel like, well, I have to get it on the first call. And then there's some times where you have to explain to them, like, no, get them on two or three calls. It may be someone that takes a few different times of having a conversation to be able to get them to that same point versus someone where you can get them on a call and then, again, reading the room, you can say, well, this sounds like someone I can close on this call versus this sounds like someone that it may take two or three. Is there a way
Yeah,
that you can kind of gauge that and get a feel for it?
I wanna test urgency as much as possible at the
Nice.
beginning of the call, within the first
Nice.
3 minutes. Sometimes the call don't even take 3 minutes, as you know, but, we really wanna test urgency. Something I like to say is if I have a toothache, I'm reaching out to the dentist today, I have urgency for the dentist, and my dentist is busy, so, I can't just say, "Hey, dentist, I wanna come in today." It could be a while, so yeah, man. I think that the biggest thing with any type of sales process, okay, is people want to make money. So we feel like, oh, we got somebody on the phone, we have to close them now. If we don't close them now, we'll never do it. And stats do say that, oh, it's in the follow-up. The stats also
Mm,
say is after you talk to somebody that's a warm prospect, the chances of you closing them after that first call is slim every day. So if it's a warm prospect, and you got to be into it and read the room enough to know if it's a warm prospect. So let's test that urgency. Let's
yes.
figure out why we're on the phone and if you do have a problem. And if you do have a problem, if you found a solution for that problem and you were comfortable with it, would you be looking to make a decision today? Or are you looking to make a decision later? Where are you at
Mhm.
with things? I want to find out that. That's really my main objective on a first call. My main objective is, you know, making sure you're okay with me reaching out to you and making sure you're comfortable with us having a conversation. And once I know that, I'm moving on to figure out what's the urgency here. Because if there is no urgency and I really don't feel like you're ready to move forward, and I'm not just going to assume that, I'm going to ask questions to get proof of that, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes we'll assume things and it's not true. So, look for that evidence, then decide what you want to do. Most of the time, you're going to follow up with people. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to follow up with somebody for 2 years if they're not responding to you or they're ghosting you. Cut
Mm,
those people off, but if somebody's having a really good conversation with you, they've really express some type of interest and there's some type of connection, keep in touch. Keep in touch. I have a story I would like to tell if it's okay.
Please.
Okay. So, I'm not gonna give any names, but there's 2 people, okay? And this guy and this woman, okay? Guy and woman is what we're gonna call 'em. So,
Mhm.
guy met woman at a real estate event, okay? And guy really liked this woman. He was like, "Oh, we need to talk more. We have the same interests. I'd love to go on a date with you.
Okay.
I just love to go on a date with you." They exchanged numbers. She never really, he texted her, like
Mm.
very consistently, but she never reached out back. Like she never said, let's
Mm.
do it, nothing like that. Right. Then one day, months later, her life was in shambles. Everything was bad. Nothing was going well. None of her friends were giving good advice. Work was sucked. Guess who texted her? Guy. Hey,
Mm.
still interested in going out on a date with you. Guess what happened? They go on a date. Guess what happened? They hit it off. Guess what happened? They got married.
Nice.
Happily ever after to this day, right? So, I mean, that's a story that has so much truth to it, whether you're in
Mm.
sales or it's just a relationship you're trying to build. Success is in the follow up, Sean. And if we don't keep going and keep asking for that date, we might not ever get married. So,
I love it because you not only took it from the importance of a follow-up, but you made it universal. There were a couple of things that I heard in that. One, there's a difference between a no and a not right now.
yes,
Not right now can just mean that, again, you wanna know what people have going on in their lives, and they're not necessarily ashamed to tell you what they have going on. Like, people will tell you if you ask them the questions and you genuinely seem like you're interested. If it's something where you seem like you're interested in what they have going on, most people will tell you. And if they're not willing to tell you, then that's a telltale sign of, okay, so your guard's still up. And then you can kind of continue through the call or say, you know what, I'm working harder than I need to be able to have just even get the basics. So then that lets you know how hard you would have to work to be able to get that sale. There is some sales that, it may seem like a good prospect, but if you have to work that hard to be able to get that sale, and then there are other people that are more warm leads, I would rather get 5 people that can total up to that one than to chase that one and not get any sales at all. So, I think those are some of the things that people want to be able to look at. And then it's also like you said, it's being able to read that situation and go, "You know what? Where are you right now?" And asking the right questions, because if it's something where you do connect with that person and you feel like there's some kind of vibe. I've made that mistake in the past, and this is one of the reasons why I say I'm not a good salesperson, because I've had some people that were ready to give me their money, and because I'm someone that's very much an account manager, I was going into, well, here's what the next process is going to be, and this is what this is going to look like. And I've literally had some people have to stop me and go, you know what? I don't even need to hear that part. I just want to be able to get the process started. So, like, how do I give you my money so that we can get to the stuff that you want to be able to tell me? And you can tell me that after we actually get all of this stuff on the books.
I love
I
this.
think that's the difference between some people of being able to read that situation and go, you know what, now's not a good time versus now is the time to be able to close. So you actually have to listen. Like you said, if someone's a warm lead, if you feel like things are going in the right direction, you say urgency. I will say one of the things that I've described it as is prioritizing it. If it's a want, if it's the difference between a want and a need. If it's something that somebody wants, they may get around to it, they may not. If it's a need and it's something where they have that sense of urgency of, no, I actually need this now, you have a better chance of being able to close that on that call or sooner than later. So I love that you were able to talk about the sense of urgency. Gauge that when you get them on a call, gauge where their head is at. Like, is this something where you're distracted because you're trying to put out a fire? Maybe the thing that I'm trying to help you with would help you put out that fire. So that's why you actually ask that question, because if they're struggling with something and they don't know what it is that you're trying to sell, but if even if it's by extension, you're able to help somebody with something, don't rule out having referrals. Sometimes the thing that they're struggling with, you might know somebody that can solve it. And by helping them put that fire out, you lower their barriers and they'll say, you know what, you helped me with that. So now I actually have time to be able to hear you out on what you want to be able to cover. So I think there's a lot of ways to be able to get to that goal and make sure that you're able to get done what you need to get done. But it all comes back to, are you trying to close on one call and not reading the situation? Or are you realizing, you know what, this is a call I can close. This is a sale I can close on the first call. Or are you setting it up to be able to get that second or third? And when you can figure that out, it makes the rest of the call go so much smoother and so much better. So, yeah, I love that you were able to cover that. I apologize for interrupting the episode, but I wanted to share something with you. Every entrepreneur has natural competitive advantages that they're not fully utilizing. The problem is, we're often blind to our own strengths because they feel effortless to us. What comes natural to you may be incredibly difficult to your competitors. What you take for granted might be exactly what sets you apart in the marketplace. My Unfair Business Advantage quiz helps you identify the hidden competitive advantages that give you a clear strategy for leveraging them. It's a quick 10-minute assessment that could transform how you position yourself and your business. Check the link in the description and let's get you back to the episode. Now, one of the things I wanted to be able to cover is I know we talked about it, or at least I vented about it, is phone etiquette. I know there are some people, one of the things that's a pet peeve of mine, and this is when I say the sales approach from the 80s and 90s. When someone calls me and they ask me my name and they haven't identified who they are, and someone calling, "Is this Sean? Is this so and so?" And my thing is, I have a real issue with someone doing that because for me, the way that I've tried to describe it to them is, it's like coming into my house, sitting down in my living room, and when I walk by, you say, "Who's that guy?" You're in my house. Don't ask me questions without identifying who you are, so I can see if this is someone that gets to stay or if this is someone that needs to kick rocks. So when it comes to phone etiquette, I know that you have a very cool and smooth demeanor of being able to get on a call and get a feel for how people are and where they're at in their head. So you can actually have that conversation and ask those questions. What are some of the things that you do to be able to kind of get that feel right as soon as you call in, and then how are you able to kind of stress those conversations out?
Good question. Tone is very important.
Yes.
Tone's very important, and I kinda call it the grandma tone, and that's kinda
Hmm.
what I pull off, to be honest. So, I make sure my really soft and most of the time low at first, unless, that can change depending on the person I'm talking to. If they're loud, I'll get loud, I like the mirror a
Nice.
lot. But, it's very simple, man. Like you said, country boy raised by my grandma, always taught, "Hey, before you walk into the house, you need to ask, 'Hey, do I need to take off my shoes?'" So when I call, I wanna ask to take off my shoes before I walk into your house. So that might just be, "Hey, Sean, I'm Travis with so and so business. Um, you know, I don't know if we'll ever do business. That's cool. I just wanted to call and get to know each other, ask you a few questions. You ask me some questions, and no hard feelings, and nothing ever comes to it. No hard feelings if we never talk again. Blah blah blah." Making sure they know that the pressure's low. I'm not really here to sell anything, but I am interested. I'm local to the community. I want to talk to people in the community. That usually people like that. People's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, okay, yeah, so you're local here." I mean, sometimes it don't work if you're not local, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's a strength when you're local in your sales community and when you have a lot of social proof that you've been around an authority. I think that helps a lot as an ethical salesperson. But anyway, so you just want to start off that conversation
Hmm.
very, very smooth and very, very polite and permission based. This is who I am. This is why I'm calling. I don't know if we can do business. It's cool if we don't. So do I have your permission to ask you some
Yeah.
questions today?
Yeah.
And that's really important. Do I have your permission? Is it okay? Because no other salesperson's doing that. I promise you. Because like me and like I'm not a salesperson. I'm really not. That's not my background, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, you want to ask for permission before you start asking questions, before you start giving presentations. People's going to respect that. So that's how I set the agenda from the call. I just want them to know who I am, and I want to see if it's okay to talk. If it's not okay to talk, is it okay if I reach back out another time? Do I have your permission
Yeah.
to do that? Can I save your
Yeah.
file?
Yeah. No, I love it. Though that's the difference between the people I'll have a follow-up conversation with, and I'll give like extra contact information and things like that too. Because it's the difference to me is someone is coming to me from the position of power, but you
Yeah.
need me. And that's where I think there's some kind of confusion where it's like you're calling me and you're asking me questions, but you actually need me for whatever it is that you're calling about. So you're not asking permission, you're making demands. Tell me who you are, tell me this, tell me that. And I think that's where they kind of mess it up. And I say 80s and 90s because that's where a lot of the training came from. One of the first things that they would tell you is, find out, identify who you're on the phone with. Is it the person? Is it the point of contact? If it's not the point of contact, then you could be potentially wasting a perfectly good sales pitch by not realizing who you're talking to. So I get where it comes from. I just think that we're not in those same times. The consumer has gotten smarter. They're more aware of sales pitches. They're more aware of things now. So you have to actually make the adjustment. So for all those old sales pitches that say do it this way, they'll have more resources now. They know what they're looking at. It's something where you can't keep using the same approach. I think that's one of the biggest things. I love that you ask permission. That is a big difference for me because when someone asks permission, you're reminding them that you understand the power dynamic. And when you can admit that you understand the power dynamic, then it puts them back in a position where someone can say, now's not a good time. And you can follow up with a reasonable, well, when would be a good time? And that's one of the things that I loved about doing sales. And I also had the marketing research background where I used to be the guy in the mall asking people if they had time for a survey. I knew I was the annoying guy. Like you want there to do a survey. But when I understood the power dynamics, I could say, "You know what? I see you just came in. Now's probably not a good time. Why don't I let you go in, take care of what you need to take care of, and then I can try to catch you on your way out." And my question's only gonna take maybe 5 or 10 minutes. The difference between trying to press someone when they first came in the mall versus saying, "Why don't you take care of what you need to take care of?" Once I saw them with some bags, I could tell. Some people would see me and then they try to veer off, and I'm like, "Makes no sense for me to try to chase you down." And then there are the other people that would come back and say, you know what? Okay, now I actually took care of what I needed to take care of. What were your questions? And then that puts me back in a position where I can say what I need to be able to say. So I think permission based is something that gets ones to lower their boundaries and be a
Yeah.
little more open to hearing you out.
Yep.
And then is it's one of the things I say there's a difference between hearing someone out and someone actually listening. At the very least, you want to get them to the point where they're willing to hear you out. And then it's really about your pitch and what it is that you're offering. Because if you have something that's not of value, they'll catch on pretty quickly and then go, you know what, okay. I listened to as much as I could. I realized it's not going to be a good fit for me. So I love that you have that. When you're coaching someone, how do you help them get comfortable going off script when the situation calls for it?
Good question. Yeah. First of all, I do not like scripts. Okay. So I do not, as soon as you come to me and you want help, I'm like, ditch the script. Let's go.
Mhm.
So it's a
Mhm.
lot of role playing. We do a lot of role playing. I feel like with no matter what you do, it's about consistent habit. If I talk about this all the time, brushing your teeth. If you're right-handed, you brush with your right tooth. I mean your right hand, and then try it with your left and see the difference. Before you
Mhm.
know it, most people go back to the right. But what happens if you change and you start doing with your left hand and you never go back to your right? Most people can't do that. It's really hard unless they do it every day. So I think that you got to do things every day. You got to practice every day. You can't just say, "Oh, well, I'm going to study this, I'm going to memorize it and I'm good." It doesn't work like that. You really have to you have to normalize it because it's hard. It's hard to ask these questions. It's hard to dig deep. The average salesperson, when somebody says it's not the right time, they're either really pushy about trying to keep going or they just say, okay, maybe another time.
Mhm.
But someone who's permission based, someone who is polite but still pushes the sale forward, like me, you know, it can look a little bit different. It can be like, Sean, I totally understand that it's not the right time. I'm curious, I got to ask, what is the right time and what does that look like?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
digging deeper and saying, "Okay, so what's really stopping you now?" "Oh, that's what's stopping." Find the root of the problem. Really
Mhm.
dig deep and get to know somebody and have those awkward conversations. The awkward conversations is where you get paid for sure, and you solve all of the problems in the world, you know? And most people just don't have the guts to do it, Sean. So
Mhm.
you have to just practice, 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 and this isn't gonna be a fix for everybody. There's gonna be people you can't sell, there's gonna be people that still give you all the objections, but this doing it this way can prevent a lot of that from happening, and when I was just going out and giving features, presentations, all the bonuses, I was getting sales. I was still 'cause, I had charisma, people liked me, and I still was getting sales, but there was a lot of people that was falling through the cracks. People that I was letting go that needed me
Mhm.
because I didn't understand the psychology behind it really, and that's important, and like you said, just being intuitive, seeing the future almost, you gotta read the room and see what's going on. I think that's really, really important any type of mentor. Stay away from, like, guarantees. If somebody's guaranteeing you
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
Like, I can't promise you by working with me, Sean, that you'll get more deals, but I can promise you you'll get more decisions. You know, you'll get
Yeah.
more yeses, nos instead of maybes, I don't knows, let me think about it. I don't have any money. Like, we deal with all of this after we've spent so much time with the person. Like you said,
Mhm.
and then we waste their life. Like, that's 30 minutes they could have went and took a nap, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that you've described that I really want people to take away is there's a difference between going through the motions and having a genuine curiosity and understanding, or trying to gain an understanding of what's going on with that other person. Over 90% of sales are made based on emotional connections. If you're just going through the motions, people don't have a reason to have that connection. If you're just talking about the features and the things that you think are going to be important to them, you're not necessarily giving them a reason to actually care. What you're telling them is why they should care. And again, there's the power dynamic of you. Nobody wants to hear why you believe that they should care about something when you can actually ask them, what is it that you actually care about? And then that goes back to the urgency that you're talking about, because they could say, well, you know what, out of the features that you're listing, the thing that you listed last is actually the thing that I would put first. If you don't ask the follow up questions, if you don't ask for more details and say, okay, well, what is in your way? And there's a difference between the people that will say, what is in your way, and someone that genuinely asks because they want to be able to get the answer. If
Yeah.
someone says now's not a good time, there's a difference between someone saying, oh, okay, well, I can get back on the call again later. If you already made it uncomfortable for me on the first call, why would I invite you to have another call and make me uncomfortable again? So that's why I appreciate the fact that you've spoken to. Make them as comfortable as possible, permission based, giving them the power dynamic where you can say, I understand that I need you in order for you to understand the value that I can bring. And then potentially after I'm able to explain what it is that I do and the value I can bring, then you'll see where you might actually need me. So I think there's a difference between the people that go through the motions and the ones that just kind of read through their pitches and things like that, as opposed to the people that are having genuine conversations.
Yeah, yeah.
Your close rate increases when you have conversations. If you're just going through your pitch, you'll get some, you'll lose some, and then you don't really get a chance to be able to identify where you can improve. The conversations will teach you where to improve. I can think of so many different times where I've had conversations with people, and somewhere in there, I'm like, okay, I feel like the tone and just the whole feel of this conversation changed. Would you mind me asking, what shifted? Because at first you felt like it felt like you really didn't have time, or like you really weren't trying to hear anything that I had to say. But then now it feels like we're having a genuine conversation. And now it's to the point where I'm actually comfortable being able to ask you what actually shifted. Those are learning moments. Those are things where you're able to be able to say, okay, here's what I did. Is this something that's repeatable? And if it's something that's repeatable, then you start to bake that into what you're doing. So I love how you said getting the reps in. That's what the reps teach you. The reps teach you, like, am I doing the same thing and getting the same results? And sometimes the results are great, sometimes the results are bad. But the reality is, it's not how many sales that you're able to get, it's how many sales that you lose, that you're able to narrow that number down. So if you're getting, you know, 20 sales per day, or however, whatever cadence you have it at, that's great. But what I'm really looking at is how many did you lose? And that's why the 100 dials, when they would have us do the 100 dials, it wasn't just did you make the 100 dials? How long were you able to stay on the phone? How long I was able to stay on the phone is what kept me employed and kept me with a check, because it was the difference between someone that called and say, "Oh, hey, can I tell you about this business?" And they were like, "Click," versus, "You know what? Ooh, sounds like I caught you at the bad time." That already extended my time on the call. Like, by having that level of empathy and being able to acknowledge that I am interrupting you. So let me figure out how not to interrupt you. Let me figure out how to be able to set up that next call. So I think there's not just the phone etiquette. I think there's the back end of what that looks like when you set something up. Now, one of the things that I do want to kind of shift over to is the people that, because we're kind of talking about cold calling and just making that call when you don't really know. Let's talk about what happens when someone says, "Yeah, we can get back on a call," and then start looking at how to be able to structure that call and kind of put an agenda in place, and then the time management that comes along with it. So let's say someone does say, yes, we can get back on a call again. How do you kind of prep for that next call when you know you didn't get a yes, you didn't get a no? You just got just enough information so that you can get back on a call with a person. What's your mindset of setting it up so that you can kind of not pick up where you left off, but start anew and be able to get further into that conversation?
Sure. Yeah, good question. I think sales is based off of emotion, right?
Mm,
Everything, and I think emotion dies fast. Like, I mean, it dies fast, right? So, I think it's very important that you stay, on their mind as much as possible, kinda like the guy earlier, kept in touch with his woman, you know? So, you
mhm,
kinda just really and you gotta make a commitment, so you can't just leave the phone call with Sean and say, "Okay, well, I'll call you back soon. Okay, we'll stay in touch." That's too vague. There has to be a commitment involved, and throughout this follow-ups, everything has to leave and end with a commitment of that seller or that person, that prospect making some type of commitment, just tiny ones. So it's very important that "Okay, it's not a good time today, I understand that, I'm kinda busy too, I get it. So when would be a better time? Are we thinking, like, I should call you this evening? Tomorrow morning?
mhm,
A month
mhm,
from now? Give them options. Don't just, I like to give multiple choice, like a teacher, like this morning, this evening, this afternoon,
mhm.
like next month, next year. Give them, and I'm very widespread with it. Sometimes I'm like, "Oh, you probably want me to call you back in like 6 months, right?" And then people go, "Oh,
Nice.
no, I want you to very soon before that." So just find out how urgent they are and then base your follow-ups on that. And just, "Okay, Sean, yeah, that's cool. So you sounds pretty urgent. You want me to call you back tomorrow evening. How about 8 o'clock? Does that work? I'll
Nice.
call you at
Yeah.
8. Okay, I'm really busy tomorrow. I got a lot of appointments, but I can make this work because sounds like we got something good going here. So
Mhm.
as long as I can pencil this in, if I commit to this, you're definitely going to make it, right? You just want to make sure that they do that type of commitment with you. It's important because if not, they'll no show on you. But if they've committed to you small times and three times in this little short last 3 minutes, then they're going to think tomorrow right before they no show on you. Oh, I told Sean I would do it. I
Mhm.
told him I would be
Mhm.
there. A good person's always gonna, fulfill their commitment, and that's a character test. Like, it's not just important that you need my product or service, but it's important that you're a man or woman of your word and you'll do whatever you commit to, your character.
Absolutely. I think again, that's where you're not just about trying to win business. You're trying to find ideal customers. You're trying to find the people that you can turn into brand champions that will not only buy from you once, but buy from you more than once, and then help you find more people that can enjoy the same experience that you're trying to get someone. So I'd like to say that there are characters and then there are characters. There are some people that are, you can sell to them, you can get something from them once, but then there are the people that are people of character, and those are the people that I really wanna be able to work with. If we share some of the same values, if we share some of the same approach, those are things you can find out in those conversations. When you have those conversations and you ask someone like, "Well, get back to me," and you ask that follow-up question of, "Okay, well, when would be a good time?" Like, I will tell someone, "I'm not really a morning person, so, maybe get to me in the afternoon because if you call me in the morning, I'm thinking about all the other things that I have to be able to get done. So I'm probably going to be a little more short. And if you're someone that needs more time, let's put it when I can actually get some things off my plate. I'll feel like I've gotten some progress done. And then once I have that, then I'm actually in a position to be able to listen to what it is that you're saying. You have to be able to ask those things. And I love the fact that you said, 6 months. That is another way of testing urgency. That's another way of being able to get if someone says, "Yeah, yeah, just give me a call back." Like it sounds interesting, but give me a call back. If you don't get some kind of window or some kind of permission again to be able to call back with a little bit of clarity and some promise, that'll tell you when somebody's just giving you saying what they think you want to be able to hear versus genuinely wanting you to call them back. And then
Yeah.
that allows you to set your priorities of who you're calling back first and what kind of energy you put into calling that person back. So I love that you were able to cover that. I think it's important to be able to identify it's not just about getting the second or the third call. It's not just about not having the person hang up on you when you call. It's getting the person to actually feel some way about, yeah, I can't miss that call. Actually, I felt like we had a little something. So at the very least, let me get on the call and say, you know what? I know I said call me today, but like I still have some stuff going on. Can we get another call? I don't mind those calls. I don't mind getting back to that person again after that because that lets me know their character. That lets
Yeah,
me know
yeah.
that we actually did have a connection and that you understand what the other side of what it's like to be on the other side of that phone because that's someone that I can also follow up with. But for the people that will say, "Yeah, give me a call," and they don't mean it, I actually want to know that you don't mean it. So then this way I'm not putting that on my list as a priority.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it as, yeah, I don't really get the feeling that that's something that you want me to do. And that's why I love that you asked the follow up and you're gauging it by not being rude or pressing them, but almost making it like a joke. Well, I mean, what I can give you a call back in 6 months. Is 6 months work for you? It's again lowering the guard and making someone go, you know what, I'm being difficult, but I'm not that difficult.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
that's just one more way of getting someone to kind of say, you know what, you're a good guy. Let me at least give you a chance to be able to tell me what you want to be able to tell me. So I love that you were able to do that. Those are some of the things that are the nuances that I wanted to be able to cover on the call. Those are things that people don't necessarily pick up on, and you have to get the reps in. So again, I want to go back to the reps. We're talking about reps. Reps is repetition. It's the more you do it, the more you start to feel comfortable with it. One of the things that I told you is I have 4 C's. There's clarity, confidence, and then consistency. Clarity is being able to go, yes, this is something that I can kind of get over the getting on a call or setting things up. Confidence is where you get in enough reps where you start to feel like, okay, well, I know what I can do and I know what I can't do. And then once you can figure out what you can and you can't do, then you can start to be a little more confident with it. And then once you can find the things that work and then you get more confident with it, people buy from people that believe in what they're selling. And then that's where you can start to see the consistency. And that lowers how many different closes you lose. And it starts to increase the number of wins that you get. Talk to me about your coaching services and like what does the experience look like? Because you're helping people get those reps in. Where you're talking about you do scenarios and you're walking them through. What does that look like?
Yeah, man, it's really a lot of practice. When you think of sports, you think of, you're on the field a lot. You're on the field practicing more than you're in the games. So, and I think it's important that you're actually on the field practicing and you have a coach telling you the plays, teaching you how to, you know, teaching you all the moves. And that's what I do. So I sit down with people weekly. This isn't like I do have a course coming out that I'm going to include into this, but I don't believe in
Nice.
courses. I don't believe in scripts. I want to sit with you for weeks at a time and I want to role play with you and have sales conversations with you until we learn every weakness and strength that you have, and we're going to work on those weaknesses. We're going to sit down and I'm going to pick those weaknesses apart to the point to where you're going to be so aware of them that when you do them, you're going to start noticing it. Then it becomes natural to do it the other way. That's kind of what I do. It's not just a bunch of sales objections and here's my course and go good luck. You know,
Hmm.
it really matters that you're genuine, though. If you're not genuine, this stuff is not gonna work for you. I use a lot of psychology in my sales, and if you're a
Nice.
manipulative person, it's not gonna work. You can just go
Hmm.
somewhere else. You gotta be genuine about this stuff, or people will know. Like Sean said, it's 2025. We know when someone's selling us. Even when somebody's not selling us, it sounds like they're selling us now,
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
So, yeah, it's all about breaking my objective is that, have my students break, pattern interruptions. I
Hmm.
want them to have conversations with people, and I want them to stick out. That's important in this sales world is just to stick out, show who you are, and, we talk a lot about being nice, Sean, and being polite and asking for
Hmm.
permission, and all that stuff's important. But what I found is don't take what I'm saying and just do that stuff. All that stuff is needed, but you also do have to have authority.
Yes.
You have to not boss them around, but let them know you're a decision maker and you have rights as a salesperson too. Okay? You gotta
Absolutely.
do all that and you gotta give the close. We haven't talked about that. All this qualifying and follow-ups don't matter if you can't close somebody,
True.
you
True.
know? And you gotta know when to close somebody. Most people don't they give the presentation at the wrong time. Me and Sean talked about this, you know. We touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the call, but it's just it's the magic moment.
Hmm.
Going back to dating. You know, the magic moment's not in the movies when you drop the girl off at the end and she's at the house and you kiss her right then.
Hmm.
Nobody gets money in sales doing it that way. You don't wait for the magic moment. The moment where you fill the room, they look at you, the emotion has been transferred at that time and it's a right fit. That's when you do it, you know? I'd love to talk about that a little bit more if that's all right, just like the
Yeah,
close.
no, absolutely. I think you've definitely nailed it. It's one thing to be able to get somebody on a call and to be able to have that conversation, but it's another thing to actually know how to be able to close
Yeah.
and when to close. One of the other things that I wanted to cover, because you talked about your coaching style. We both were on a call with someone that we had a good experience with on a networking session. And then we went to get on a call. And when we're talking about being like a coach, it was the weirdest situation because you're talking about coaching and you're giving people the reps and you're getting them through the scenarios. We both had someone book a call and then that person got on the call with him and just basically took all his authority and power away. So I wanted to kind of highlight that part as well because there's a difference between giving someone the reps and building up their confidence, and then there's the people that I can remember when we would do sales and when they were training salespeople, they would get the person on the phone and then they'd be on the other phone on mute or on the call, and they would be telling the person what to say. You're not gonna be genuine when someone can tell that, like, you're having a conversation, you just told me who you are, and then all of a sudden, I can tell that somebody else said something because now all of a sudden you just kinda changed everything up.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I think it's great that you're helping people get the reps in before, and then helping them to be able to go, "Okay, well, what happened on the call?" And then you get the tells and everything back, and then you
Yeah.
allow them to be able to fine tune it, but you're doing it in real time by doing it with them as opposed to the guy and his coach that we're doing it on calls. And I mean, we both had the same response. It's like, dude, I enjoyed my conversation with you. The moment he got on the call, it just ruined any connection that I felt like we had. And I just wanted to highlight that part because I think that's another misstep. And there are some people that may be selling it that way. And I wanted to highlight the difference between what you're doing and what somebody else may be doing. Because that person was basically selling themselves as a coach on a call where that guy was supposed to be closing his own business. So I say that to say, let's bring it back around to closing and say, okay, so when you are on the phone with someone and you are getting that vibe of, you know what, I feel like we're connecting on this. Then it's starting to identify when to be able to close. Is it on that first call? Is it another call? Talk to us about closing and your approach to it.
Well, yeah, this is my favorite part, because I used to suck at it. I used to be the world's worst closer, I'm telling you, I really was. Okay, so it's really a good process, okay? I love it. So, you set your agenda, you tell them who you are, why you're calling, you ask for permission to ask questions. Once they give you that permission, you wanna find out, a little bit more qualifying questions, nothing deep, you're not getting deep yet, you're just, like, how do you make decisions in your household? Are you the only decision maker? Are there other people? Because usually if there's other people, Sean, we wanna get those people on the phone or
Yes.
or schedule another time where they can be on the phone too. We don't wanna spend time if all the decision makers aren't present.
Hmm.
Then we can test the urgency a little bit. We can find out if they do have a problem, and they're comfortable
Hmm.
with it. Is it today type of urgency or a 6 years from now type of thing? Once we found out, and they could lie to us, but once they tell us, "Hey, we're good with that, today," then we can really find out qualifying questions like we were talking about before. We can rip that Band-Aid off and start poking at the wound and asking, "Does it
Hmm.
hurt? Does it hurt? What's going on here? Does it hurt more in the mornings, in the evenings? What happens if the
Yeah.
pain doesn't stop?" So, I'm looking for 3 to 5 needs and greeds, meaning things that they need and things that they want out of this transaction. For houses, it might be, oh, I need to buy a one level house. My knees are getting bad. I want to live closer to my brother. I want to buy a boat. I want to go to Vegas. I'm
Smart.
finding out what they want and need. Once I find out what they want and need, I find out that there's urgency. They're the decision maker, and we
Hmm.
built a good connection. It's time to close them. There's no need for following up. I have a solution for you today, Sean. You've told me
Hmm.
this problem, and this problem. I can help you. Do I have your permission to give you an offer now? To give you the presentation? Now it's cool to be a salesperson again. Okay,
Yes.
because yeah,
Yes.
because you went through a process with them and you found out that they need, what they want. You built rapport with them because people think rapport is just, oh, well, we share the same football. We like
Hmm.
tomatoes.
Hmm.
No, it's more than that. Okay.
Yeah.
You find out all this stuff, then you ask for permission to give the offer. Give your presentation, do everything you're trained to do. And then at the end, let them make a decision. It's okay to say no to me. It's not gonna hurt my feelings. And so by this time, It's either going to be a yes or no, because if it's, well, I need to talk to my wife, you've done went over that with them. Sean, I really respect you wanting to think things over if you're not comfortable, and you can do that. But you did tell me at the beginning that you didn't have to talk to your wife. You're the decision maker. So that's not what this is it? Is it a good fit? No hard feelings, right? So, you're getting all these objections up front. You're finding out if they're financially able. You're asking the right questions. Like, just curious, Sean, what is your business like? Do you work? Do you have a job? Are you making good money? You want to find out this stuff at the beginning to find out if they're a fit for your offer and
Mhm.
presentation. And then that way you're not wasting their time or yours. Like I said, I would much rather take a nap because I'm tired sometimes, right? Talking to all these people. I'd much rather take a nap than waste my time and your time talking to you if it
Right.
if it doesn't qualify for either of us, you know?
I
And
agree.
and always want to always, if you have someone saying yes to your product or service, you always wanna give that second turn go around. You always wanna say something like, I give a lot of nurturing. I nurture my prospects and stroke them in a genuine way. I wanna be genuine about it, but I like to say, "Sean, like, this has been a great conversation. I love learning about you. You seem like you're a good character, which is the type of person I love to do business with."
Mhm.
And you seem like a man of your word. So don't get mad at me when I say this, but I have to ask, before we do all this and money's transferred and all of that, you know, this is what you want to do, right? Like, this is the
Yeah.
best decision for you and what you feel like is a good decision. Like, you always wanna ask that, because not only do you not want to, screw somebody over if it's not a right fit, but
Mhm.
you wanna handle that objection if they do have a second thought. It's another
Yes.
commitment they make. So if they say, "No, Sean, this is exactly what I wanna do," if they do wake up tomorrow, they're not just gonna get emotional and text you, or they're gonna think about it first because they made that commitment to you. So I think that's really important with the close.
Well, now I see why it's one of your favorite parts because you just covered some of the nuanced parts of it that people will put at different stages, but the reality is it really is about the close.
Yeah.
I'll bring it back to the authority. The permission based, everything leading up to it is allowing them to be able to have the power. But once they say, yeah, I want to be able to hear more about it, then that's where you switch from being the very apologetic person to being the authority to say, okay, well, now you're asking for my expertise.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you're asking for my expertise, now it's time for me to not talk about the features and certain things like that. It's about here's everything that you told me. Now here's how I can address all the things that you said were actual problems. So I love the fact that you said I will repeat it back to them and make sure that I heard it right, and then align it with whatever the product or the service or thing that I'm actually selling is attached to, and aligning it in a way where they can nod their head and say, "Yeah, no, I can see how that would solve that and how this would solve this." So I think that part is definitely something that more people should pay attention to. One of the things that I love that you've covered that again, I don't think other people are necessarily talking about is circling back. You have an understanding of buyer's remorse. And you have the understanding of someone that's been sold on something. There are some people that are really good at selling somebody on something, and then the person wakes up the next day and goes, "You know what? I feel used. I
Yeah,
feel
right.
dirty. Like I feel like I was sold on something, but now I've had a chance to think about it, and it's not what I wanted. It was just I was on the call and I felt like I got cornered, so I just kind of went with it. Circling back and making sure that it's something that that person feels good about is something that gets you from being able to get that sale, that initial sale, to being able to hold on to them as a customer.
Yeah,
It
man.
takes it back from you being the authority to being that permission based person again that says, you know what, I just want to make sure you're good with this. And then I also love the fact that you talked about making sure that what someone said at the beginning of the call still aligns with where they are at the end of the call. You said you're the point of contact. You said you're the person. You said you don't have to ask anybody else.
Yeah,
It's repeating it back because, again, that speaks to their character.
yeah,
And if someone says something at the beginning of the call and then you get to that point and it's something that's different, then it's an opportunity for them, if they have any concept of shame or any of the other things that come along with it, to be able to correct it and give you a better idea of what you're actually looking at. So those are three things that I think are really, really important. And technically, every single one of those things are factors of being able to close a business. So I love that you were able to be able to cover that. Yes, you want to be the authority. Yes, you want to be able to align it with every single want, need, and everything else that they said that they're struggling with. Aligning what you're doing is making it so that it's more of a foregone conclusion. And that's one of the things we talked about in our conversation. I do my work on the front end so that I don't have to sell on the back end. So I'm listening and saying, okay, yeah, no, that's actually something that I do have some experience with addressing. I do this, I do this, I do this, and aligning it as they're saying it so they can start to see it. One of the things that I try to tell people is the goal is to get them from it's impossible to it's possible to it's plausible to okay, now I can see myself actually getting those results. And if you can move them through that, when you get to the point where once they realize it's possible, that's when you start to close. So I love the fact that you were able to say, now here's the next steps on how to be able to do that. Um, I can only imagine how many people benefit from you being able to give them those types of insights and then allow them to be able to get through the reps of making sure that they're able to do it. I love it. Is there anything else you want to cover about the close? Because yeah, I mean, those are things that I know, but I don't think about until you said it, and then I was like, "Oh, yeah, those are things that are supposed to be in that."
I mean, no, the close is the hardest part for most people. We do a great job at building rapport and asking questions most of the time, but, unless you're a closer, it's hard to give that offer, and you're nervous about it. And I think that it's totally normal to not be able to close. Like I said, I was the world's worst. Now, after beating it into my head so many times, repetition, repetition, it happens. It starts to become natural. You don't have to look at a piece of paper. And I would
Mhm,
say that it's just really important in not just the close, but to have that authority, in the conversation and to let them know that the salesman does have its own rights. Like the salesman has his or her rights, and you know, people get treated if you're a salesman, you get treated really bad, you get hung up on, and you have to have authority. You have to let people know. Like I like to let people know how busy I am.
mhm,
Like, "Hey,
mhm,
I'm really
mhm,
busy." I buy if it's houses, I buy a lot of houses in this neighborhood. I bought dozens of houses. Nancy down the street knows me, ask her about me, all the local attorneys know me. So if we have a title issue, I can get them solved really fast. I'm using a lot of social proof and authority in a genuine fashion. Okay, so I think you really have to understand or start learning human psychology and
mhm,
behavior, and you have to start digging deeper, ask permission, be polite, but push the sale forward. And I think you need to get on the call like you are going to close that person, but also understand that you're probably not going to and know how to stay in
fair,
touch and
fair,
follow up. But look for urgency.
fair. Love it. I think what we're getting is we're getting an idea of what it looks like to be coached by you, because you've gone back over it and you haven't missed a step. This is something where someone is struggling with one part, they can see that you can help them with that part, and then every single piece that is part of that actual sales cycle. So yeah, no, I think you nailed it with that. Let's talk about one thing. If people don't do anything else, what's one thing that someone can do to be able to kind of start the process? What's one action that they can start to take? I know when we talked about originally, my thing is, oh yeah, you had me at reps. Like you got to get the reps in. If you don't get the reps in, even if it's just me talking to myself, I think one of the things I said is if it doesn't sound right in my head, then I don't feel comfortable saying it out loud. Like if I can't get past my own, you know what, my own hubris, I go, yeah, I mean, I can't even believe me when I'm saying it. How am I to expect somebody else to believe it? So I think authority, confidence, those are things that have to factor in. And you can't really get that without getting some of the reps in and actually believing in what you're selling. So those are some of the things that come to mind for me. Is there anything that comes to mind to you for you that like you're like, okay, if you don't do anything else, work on this.
I think it's talking to people. I would think that that's the number one thing that you need to practice. So for example, let's say you're going for a walk, and let's say people walk by you, they're walking too. Look at them in the eye, smile at them, and say, "How was your day? Nice to meet you." Or, "Oh, you have pretty dogs." Start communicating with people and start acknowledging them because that's important in sales. We didn't really talk about that, but the acknowledgement of someone, acknowledge what they're saying, acknowledge what they are wearing, give them attention because we're all seeking that attention. Before we go, I have one more story, okay, and then we'll head off.
Please. Yeah.
Very short. I have a mentor very close to me, okay? His name is Claude, and Claude told me a story about he was in a sauna. He's a runner. He's an old guy, but he likes to stay in shape, right? Sorry,
Uh,
Claude. So anyway, Claude was in a sauna, and he's an older guy, and there was only one other person in there, it was a younger girl, a younger woman, and they were, like, on the complete opposite sides of the world when it come to interests and things like that, if you look at them, right?
Mm.
So, he kept looking up at her, and he's a conversationalist, and she kept looking up at him but wouldn't say anything. So he broke the ice, started talking about her T-shirt, starts a conversation. Next thing you know, they're in there and they're laughing and they're having all this stuff, and he was talking about how people, want to engage and they want the conversation, but they don't want to initiate. So sometimes we as the salespeople, we have to initiate the conversation, and that goes back into digging deeper. Initiating, what does that mean? What does this look like? What happens if this doesn't change? So I would say that's the main thing is just start acknowledging people, start really listening, and everybody you meet from Walmart to the mall to the gas station, start a conversation, even if it's just a short one, and acknowledge them. Say something good about them because we all want to feel good, and that helps. That goes a long way in sales. That you're a cool guy or girl, you're nice, you're
Mhm.
trustworthy, and you give people polite acknowledgments. I think that it works.
I love it. I do believe that, again, those are the reps. Like, if you can get comfortable having those conversations, I know I used to end up in rooms with people where I didn't know them like that. And one of the things that I would do is just say, even today now, like I can go into a store and I'm like, how's your day going? People are so used to people just kind of going through their day and not thinking anything about them that like I've said it to people and they're like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, how's your day going? And they were
Yeah,
like, I've spoken to like 50 people and not one person, like they may have said it, but they weren't actually waiting for the answer. Like you literally waited for the answer. I was like, because I want to know. Like, maybe if you're having a bad day, who knows what's going on with you? Maybe you have something that you need to be able to get off your chest. You don't know, but those reps and going from something where someone has that awkward thing and getting to the point where you can get further into a conversation, those are the things that are going to help you when you actually go to do sales calls. So, yes, if you see someone that's out, that's one of the things that it took a while. I remember being from New York and going out to California, and people would say, "Hey, how's your day going?" I'm like, "Do I know you?" It took me a while to get used to the fact that people would just talk to you, just to talk to you. And then once I got used to it, then it's something that just became part of my personality across the board. Where I will ask somebody how they're doing, whether it's the phone or anything else, and give that 3 second pause to go, "No, I'm genuinely asking. Like this isn't a rhetorical question." So if you can get into these conversations, if you can spark the conversation with some of these people that you interact with in your day to day, being able to read those conversations will start helping to give you the reps of being able to read those other conversations. So I love that you covered that because sometimes people will say, well, I don't have like a coach. I don't have someone that I can talk to. I don't know how to be able to bounce that off of someone. The world is your list of examples that you can be able to pull in. And then it's just a matter of continuing to be able to go, well, I went to have that conversation. I went to say something to that person. It could have been he was in the sauna and he went to say something to her and he said the wrong thing. And then she's like, oh my God, like the guy did this, that. That's a
yeah,
learning moment.
yes,
Take each one of those reps and learn from it and figure out how to be able to do something. So I think that's great. I think that's if you don't do anything else, that's a great, great starting point.
yeah,
Start using all of those interactions that we have at there's no shortage of them, and start using those as an opportunity to be able to learn how to get better. Even with us being online, there's still the opportunity to be able to learn something about someone, learning how to be able to ask a question and wait for the answer. There's the people that will ask a question and they're not really waiting on the answer; they're just waiting on their chance to be able to follow up. They're like, "Hey, how's it going?" And before the person can answer, they're like, "Great, well, and they jump straight into the next thing. So then for me, it's like, so that wasn't a genuine question.
yeah.
That
Don't
was
be
you
that
just using it
person.
as an opening. Yeah. So
Don't be that person. If you're talking to somebody and you say, "Hey, how's your day?" and they say it's not been very good, that's your practice. Dig deeper. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. What's going on? Even if you don't have a lot of time, just maybe say, "Oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope your day gets better." That
absolutely.
shows so much more than the person like, "Oh, how's your day going? Okay, nice to meet you." Huh? Keeps going. I love it, Sean.
Well, I mean, I will cap it there because I think there's more that we can cover.
Yeah,
But I think what we've done is we were able to at least hopefully fulfill the promise. So one of the things that I said is by the end of this episode, you'll have more confidence and confidence in turning sales conversations from awkward pitches into natural relationship building discussions that close more deals while making prospects actually thank you for the call. I think you've covered that by, making it permission based. I think you've talked about the confidence and competence. You get those reps in and you will start to feel more comfortable having those conversations. The people thanking you is because you actually were genuine. You weren't just going through a sales pitch. Go back and listen to this again and see all the different gems that Travis was able to drop and how they were genuine. They're not just things where he's saying, do this because this always works. You specifically said, I don't tell people that if it's a guarantee, then question the ones that guarantee it. But what you can do is help people learn how to be able to get better. And that's something that happens over time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so with that, tell people where they'll be able to find you and some of the things that you're doing. How can they work with you? How can they get better at sales and the things that they want to be able to cover?
Yeah, sure. Just to start off, what I like to do with everybody is, you can go to my calendar link. Sean will put it in the description, or you can just
Hmm.
text me and I'll send it over to you, 304-444-6744. And what we'll do is we'll just hop on a call, okay, where we'll go over what your sales process is like, what challenges you might be having, and I will diagnose your problem, in a very short period of time by talking with you. And then we can figure out if we can work together or not. No hard feelings if we can. And I'll still give you guys, even if we can't work and you don't want to work or whatever reason it might be, I'll still give you a lot of free value that actually it's free, but people actually pay for it. But I'll still give you some playbooks and things like that that
Mm,
you'll be able to take with you. And just like right now, if you just listen to this call, you can take this call, run a transcript on it, put it through Chat GPT, and you'll have a whole playbook that you can practice on day by day. And if you just take this and do that, you're gonna be ahead of most people. But if you do want to, get in the trenches and you wanna practice with me, I'd love to do it. So, yeah, just, reach out to me by texting me, 304-444-6744, or the link, in the description.
that's it. That's it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, you definitely nailed it. I will be turning this full length episode into a mini series and taking some of the key talking points so that people can just go step by step. And one of the ones that I think people are going to get the most value out of is the close, because there are things in there that even the seasoned sales reps can forget. And the fact that you were able to go into that, that's where the real money is made. So yes, we talk about the things that'll get you on the phone and keep the person from hanging up on you, but you still got to be able to close. And I think that's going to be something that really stands out. Okay, so with that, I will say we'll stop it here. You always have an open invitation to be able to come back on. Whenever you're working on something, give me a heads up and I'll do my best to be able to help promote it on my end. And yeah, we'll go ahead and call it here. But to the audience, I will say like, share, and subscribe. If you know someone that is thinking about sales or thinking about what they need to be able to cover, just want to be able to have better interactions. I don't think you're strictly someone that can help people with just sales, like real estate sales or anything like that. A genuine person that can help people feel more comfortable. There are a lot of introverts out there that want to be able to venture out and do things, and they don't want to talk to a salesperson because a salesperson is going to make everything sound like it's easy. I think the difference between what a salesperson is doing and what you're doing is you're helping people build up their confidence and get those reps in so that they can actually do it in a way that allows them to be able to stay who they are. So it's not just people that are in real estate. I would say if you're an introvert, if you're someone that struggles with making those types of connections, talk to Travis. Like, he can probably guide you in a direction and help you find yourself and make it easier for you to be able to have some of these conversations that you want to be able to have. And the fact that he gave you his number, because you have never heard me give my number. And I love having conversations with people. That lets you know just how genuine he is, that he's willing to give you that level of access. So I will call it here. I'll say like, share, and subscribe. We will have you come back on. Any of the questions that come up, I'll let you know. And we'll just have you come back on and be able to help answer those. And yeah, I'm going to say thank you so much for your time.
Yes, sir, my pleasure. This was great. Thank you.
All right, no problem. We'll call it there and we will see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Strategic Thinkers Podcast. Remember, when you can make the inconvenient convenient, people are willing to pay you for the experience. The better the experience, the more they'll not only pay you, but help others pay you. Serving as brand champions. My name is Sean Atkinson, and I'm wishing you well on your journey to your definition of success. If you find this podcast interesting, helpful, worth a listen, like, share, and subscribe. Leave a positive review so people know to check it out, and I'll see you next time.